Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Politicians keep saying that.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
And people believe.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
But when we means government, the fact is they can't.
The politicians in there think they can run our economy, run our lives, but no, they can't.
That's the title of my new book, which explains that individuals succeed, but government spends huge amounts of our money on trivial things.
It's trivial to you because you're arrogant.
Yes, we can.
No, politicians can't.
Do you liberals live in a fantasy land?
Who thinks the TSA does a great job?
To be subjected to such disgusting abuses of power.
Government can't protect our money or educate kids.
Yes, we can.
The government just can't do it.
Get out of our way and leave us alone.
Next time a politician says,
yes, we can.
We the people should say,
no, they can't.
The politicians in there claim they create jobs, but no, they can't.
President Obama was a job creator from day one.
We're going to create millions of new jobs.
My job is to create jobs.
They keep saying that, but does government create jobs?
Absolutely.
Congressman Keith Ellison is co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus.
The public sector and the private sector must be working together in order for the market to work properly.
Wouldn't it be nice if the wise men and women in Washington could make the market work properly and create jobs?
John, nobody can doubt that we have schools that are crumbling, that our parks need more attention. My own city of Minneapolis, we saw a bridge fall into the Mississippi River, man.
But government doesn't have any money of its own. It has to take money from the private sector to give to these projects.
You got to take the money from somewhere.
Congressman Ellison's caucus claims it has a plan that will create 2.2 million jobs.
If government can create these 2 million jobs, why not 5 million jobs, 10 million jobs? Why are you so cheap? Spend more.
There needs to be some balance. What we're trying to do.
But how do you know that 2.2 million is the right balance of taking money from the private sector?
No one ever does know exactly the right answer.
Mark Cuban! I think this guy has the right answer. That's Mark Cuban, owner of the NBA champion Dallas Mavericks.
How many jobs have you created?
Oh, I don't know, thousands, tens of thousands.
When politicians take money from the private sector, they take it from job creators like Cuban.
Government's just not very effective and very efficient at using money.
When Cuban was 24, he had no job himself and no prospects.
And you end up with billions of dollars.
And a hot wife. What more could I ask for, right?
In 1983, Cuban started a software company. He grew it and sold it to CompuServe for millions. Then,
my partner at the time came to me and said, you know, you're the geek. There's got to be a way to listen to Indiana basketball over the internet. And I'm like, that's a good idea.
So Cuban started another company.
I put an ISDN line in the second bedroom of my house, and I just worked.
Without a government program, Mark Cuban again created something.
And I said, guys, when this is over, it's either going to be we're idiots and this is worth absolutely nothing and we'll know it right away, or we're all going to be rich.
5 years later, they sold that company to Yahoo for $6 billion.
To me, the most patriotic thing you can do as an American is be filthy rich. You're creating jobs. You're creating opportunities.
Cuban used his $1 billion to hire more people and create more wealth. And he bought a lousy basketball team.
You took a team not expected to win. They became national champions.
Yeah, we sucked.
Did you have some idea nobody else had, or is this just good players?
I walked in and I told everybody, if you mention our win-loss record, you're fired.
The attitude would spread, be contagious.
Yeah, it was contagious. Losing is contagious. You know, we had a survival attitude as opposed to a let's win attitude. And that's what I had to change. If you don't think like winners, I'm going to trade you and I'm going to get rid of you. You know, it took us 12 years, but we finally won a world championship last year.
Now Cuban stars in a reality show that invites entrepreneurs to pitch ideas that might grow into big job creators.
$500,000 for 45% of the company.
But Cuban says it would be hard for him to start his businesses today because government's gotten so much more intrusive.
A lot of these things now, there's so much paperwork and regulations, so many things that you have to sign up for, that you have a better chance of getting in trouble than you do of being successful. It's like, come on, guys, you want people to start businesses. Why make it so hard?
They make it hard because they want safety and fairness and think their rules provide that. They also make it hard because big government demands higher taxes. Cuban will survive that, but little guys get killed.
That's right. 2 for the government, 1 for me. 2 for the government, 1 for me.
Ed Land bought a small farm in South Carolina, thinking,
how can the farm, produce some income that can pay for itself? And that's when we decided to go into agritourism business.
He started to have weddings and other events at the farm. He also sells cattle and produce, but he's been held back by government.
And I'm tired of them telling us what to do and how to live and how to do business, how to can a product. And I ask them permission for everything I do in life. You want to control everything? Then you come out here and run the damn thing.
What does the government do that has him this frustrated?
This is just part of the regulations we have to deal with right here at Stossel Farm. They're just going on, and they just keep growing.
Government regulations stopped him from canning and selling his crops.
We missed an entire harvest because we couldn't get the kitchen certified in time.
And they forced him to make tons of little changes to his building. A regulator told him,
you need to put another hand washing sink right beside this sink. I said, for what? For employees to wash their hands. I said, well, what's wrong with the other sinks? The sink on its own was not a big deal. It's the little things that keep massing together and make this big ball that before long I can't carry that big ball.
He's learned that bureaucrats keep their jobs by finding problems.
Well, let's say a building codes inspector comes out, and if he doesn't find anything, then what good is he? He can't justify his position unless he goes back and says, look, boss, I found this and this and this. And so it just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling.
That time and money he spends obeying government could have gone to create jobs.
Without the government deterring the growth of this business, we could hire 10 more easy. Get out of our way and leave us alone, and we can create all the jobs.
But big government doesn't get out of the way. It keeps helping us. For example,
are you disabled? The politicians in there say they can help you find jobs. But no, they can't.
We must take strong action.
Remember this
the
guy?
Tradition of both blatant and subtle discrimination.
Young Senator Al Gore helped convince Democrats and Republicans to overwhelmingly pass the Americans with Disabilities Act.
The point of the ADA was to get people with disabilities employed, and it's had absolutely the reverse effect.
A reverse effect. When the law was passed, 51% of disabled people were in the workforce. But now it's just 33%. One reason is that the law makes employers see the disabled as a legal threat. If you fire a disabled person, he may sue you. In addition, politicians promised the ADA would force businesses to accommodate handicapped people. So the law includes hundreds of pages of detailed rules. Every new doorway must be 32 inches wide. Every mirror no more than 40 inches above the floor. If they aren't, Morse Merbon may sue you. He files hundreds of ADA lawsuits every year.
What would you do, John, if you were in a wheelchair, you couldn't move your legs? Don't you want something to protect you, to protect your rights?
But as usual, the politicians' protection did nasty things. Now some businesses are sued by disabled people who have never even been in their stores. Drive-bys, the lawyers call them. A disabled person or scout working for them drives up and down the street looking for businesses that might not be compliant. Eric Wyatt was asked to do that.
Eric got an email from his attorney. Go to the following 19 businesses, get 19 business cards or receipts, and I'll pay you $1,000.
Just get a business card to prove he was there, and the lawyer would find a reason to sue. Eric said no, but he could have made thousands of dollars a day.
About $19,000 altogether.
The disability rules are hundreds of pages, so most every business violates some rule.
It could be that a mirror is an inch too high.
Unsecured floor mats, round doorknobs.
A round doorknob is illegal?
It could subject you to a lawsuit.
George Coles owns carpet and flooring stores in San Diego. His father was disabled and used a scooter to maneuver around the store.
And we have a lot of disabled customers that never complained or anything, and we always felt we were in compliance. But if an attorney comes in and his or her motivation is to make money on non-compliance, I think they can be very creative.
One person sued, claiming the store aisles were too narrow for his wheelchair, but they aren't.
So we decided, let's look in our security cameras. Well, lo and behold, we couldn't find him. He never was in the store.
But the phony plaintiff's lawyer still demanded money.
He would just go away for $14,000.
So George paid, even though he had proof that the man was not in his store. In total, being sued cost him $100,000.
They're faced with these claims that even when they're not true, they pay him anyway because it would cost them much more to win?
It's as simple as that. We know of a number of defendants who spent $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 dealing with these cases. Clint Eastwood was one of them.
Eastwood runs this hotel restaurant. He has a handicapped accessible bathroom, but a woman sued him because she claims she was directed to a regular bathroom. Eastwood is rich enough to say, "Go ahead, make my day." He fought back in court and won. Usually business owners just pay the lawyer a few $1,000s to go away.
It's just extortion, but it's legal.
It sure feels that way.
It's an ugly, ugly process, but it works.
You sue about all kinds of trivial stuff.
Well, it's trivial to you because you're arrogant and you don't see the point of view of someone who is not...
You're parasites. You're freeloading off productive people.
If it wasn't for people like me, thousands and thousands of businesses would not be compliant with the ADA right now. If you want to call it a racket, okay, it's a racket that's written into the legal system. This is
it's legal extortion.
Well, the entire legal system is driven by money.
Yes, and by politicians who say,
Yes, we can.
Yes, we
can.
Coming up.
The first thing you're struck by is our jungle lobby.
Did you know you help pay for this? Want to go to college? It's expensive. A year at Harvard now costs more than $50,000. State schools often cost $30,000.
The politicians in there say, we can make college affordable for everyone. But no, they can't.
They've tried. Federal spending on college aid has doubled, then doubled again. But as government aid grew, so did tuition. Over the past 30 years, inflation was 160%. We're upset that health care costs grew more, 400%. But college tuition rose 750%.
The first thing you're struck by is our jungle lobby. Banyan trees and all of the trappings of a jungle retreat.
One place your money goes is to luxuries that entice students and their money. This is the rec center at the University of Missouri.
From there, you'll find yourself in the jungle gym, complete with the torches, to welcome you into our cardio gallery. Not to be outdone by Tiger Lair. Tiger Lair is our spinning studio, and it is outstanding, especially with its mural work done by that international artist, Lampo. And then Zoo Life, which is our in-house day spa.
It's no surprise that tuition's high.
And we just keep feeding the problem.
Naomi Riley wrote a book about how colleges waste money.
However, colleges decide to hike their prices. The federal government says, okay, we'll contribute a little bit more.
Today, almost half of college students get federal aid.
We've got to make sure that education is affordable and available to everybody who wants to go.
People are looking to the government to help them out of this mess, but the government got them into this mess.
Because the government pays for everything.
Yeah. The cost of colleges is not just this number that comes out of thin air. Colleges know that they can keep increasing the cost because the government says we will keep paying for it. So if the government said, we are not going to keep making up the difference no matter what you add to your costs, the cost would start to stop or they would start to go down.
But progressives say government should spend more.
There's no evidence that college loans or any type of student aid increases tuition at public universities.
Oh, come on. If you give people money, tuition goes up.
It doesn't actually. And
Tamara Drought works for Demos, a think tank that President Obama helped found.
Colleges have been forced to really cut to the bone. If you look at what has happened after this recession, absolutely, state funding has been steadily and pretty aggressively cut.
What do you mean cut? It's gone up from $55 billion to almost $80 billion. Up isn't a cut.
It has gone up in absolute terms because there are a lot more students that are being educated.
But
so
there
of
aren't
course
that many
we're
more
spending
students.
more.
Do you liberals live in a fantasy land?
There are a lot more students, John.
But
if you
not
look
enough
at
to make up with all the money you're throwing at them.
Per student amount of financial aid, particularly.
Today, students get an average $12,000 in federal and state aid, up from $7,000 in 1987.
Good morning, Mr. Vice President.
At least Vice President Biden understands that subsidies raise prices.
How do you feel about the idea that government subsidies by artificially increasing the availability of student loans is at least partially responsible for rising tuition costs?
Government subsidies have impacted upon rising tuition costs, and it's a conundrum here.
It sure is. Colleges now advertise lobster dinners and expensive dorms with luxury pools.
Pools and spas and fancy gym facilities and sushi for lunch. Isn't that where you'd like to take your next vacation?
Yes.
Every college you go to and you say, well, why do you spend so much money on this? And they say, well, we have to compete with the college down the street.
A terrific climbing tower, 42 feet, with a variety of lights on it so we can simulate different times of the day.
So the administrator says, good, I'll build a new rock wall.
I would love to know where all of these rock walls are.
Okay, I'll show you. More than 600 colleges now have rock walls.
What's important to any leisure resort and what's important to any red-blooded American college student? Spring break. Give our Tigers spring break every time they step in to the student recreation complex.
When you go on a tour here, they definitely throw that in your face, and buy one a day. It's completely awesome.
Students will come to us and say, this is what sealed the deal. It used to be reading, writing, and arithmetic. And well, we're now the fourth R, recreation.
Pretty much every parent that I have on my tour is pretty much like, I want to be back in school, or how do I get back to going to school?
We are putting colleges on notice.
Now even progressives are upset about the rising cost of college.
We can't just keep on subsidizing skyrocketing tuition.
But in that exact same speech, the president also said,
my administration is increasing federal student aid so more students can afford college.
Don't politicians see the irony? No. Coming up, imagine a place where fewer rules create prosperity.
Buildings are coming up, hotels are being built.
What in the world is happening on Wall Street?
Customers are freaked out, waiting to see how low the Dow will go.
When the housing bubble burst and markets fell, people intuitively felt someone must do something.
The politicians in there said, we know what to do. Senator Dodd and Congressman Frank will write more rules to make sure it never happens again.
And so they wrote and wrote hundreds of pages. They say this will create a new financial system.
One that is innovative, creative, competitive, and far less prone to panic and collapse.
Why is Dodd-Frank a good thing?
We'll have consumer protection, an agency that is dedicated to make sure that financial products like mortgages, credit cards, have simple contracts that are easy to understand. Transparency is a good thing.
Is Dodd-Frank simple? Did you read it?
Absolutely. I read it.
Did you understand it?
Yeah.
This whole thing? There it is. All these pages, you understand these?
Yes, I stayed up and read that thing. And let me tell you, running a bank is complicated.
But banks already had to follow these thousands of pages of complex rules even before Dodd-Frank.
If you want to open a bank, you've got to obey all these regulations.
Economist Richard Rahn is a former bank regulator.
I think most people have the trouble remembering the 10 Commandments, let alone 10,000 pages of something.
Ron used to work in the Cayman Islands. The Caymans. Sound familiar?
He's got assets hidden in the Cayman Islands.
We're not going to beat Barack Obama with some guy who has Swiss bank accounts, Cayman Island accounts.
Oh, yes. The Caymans are those Caribbean islands where Mitt Romney supposedly hides his money.
You know the reputation of the Cayman Islands.
People keep telling us it's where rich people go to cheat on taxes.
Here's a little building down the Cayman Islands.
Over 12,000 businesses claim this building as their headquarters.
It's monkey business.
Either this is the largest building in the world or the largest tax scam.
I mean, you hear it all over the news. Well, about the whole
tax haven foolishness. I mean, it really isn't so.
She's right. Look at this GAO report. The IRS says Cayman's officials provide all requested information in a timely manner.
Mitt Romney pays taxes on all the money earned from the Cayman entities.
I would think it would be like pirate heaven. Some pirate would go and steal all the money.
Well, that actually doesn't happen because the rules are understandable.
Our laws are so complex, even regulators don't understand them. The SEC investigated Bernie Madoff 6 times, but didn't stop him.
Bernie Madoff could never have gotten away in Cayman what he got away with here in the U.S.
America's complex laws only pretend to stop fraud. Remember the solution after the Enron scandal?
With the tough new law, we will act against those who have shaken confidence in our markets.
That gave us a law called Sarbanes-Oxley, which cost America billions in paperwork, but did not prevent Madoff's fraud or the next bubble.
The economy in crisis, big banks in a death spiral.
Banks made bad decisions. It makes sense that you should have a rule to stop that.
No.
But what about that Cayman building? Doesn't it suggest tax fraud? Thousands of companies are registered here.
It has nothing to do with taxes. In Delaware, there's buildings that have 10 times or 100 times as many registered companies.
It's true. Companies register themselves in Delaware because Delaware has simpler rules. I once started a business there in just 1 week.
Fox t-shirts? Fox hats? Great stuff here.
I could have registered my stand even faster in the Caymans.
What I set out to do was to design a system that was market responsive and fast.
Don Seymour helped create the simple rules. It takes just 10 pages to register a hedge fund. And the simple rules work.
Look at our track record. Just in the past decade, we've been through the crisis of 2000, 2004, and the most severe crisis being 2008. And no Cayman financial institution needed any type of government intervention or needed any type of bailout.
Simple rules also created prosperity.
Today we have the highest standard of living in the world.
We're doing real good. We can't complain.
Jobs are always opening up. The businesses are booming out of nowhere. Buildings are coming up. Hotels are being built.
Simple rules has been good for people.
Yes.
It's counterintuitive. People's reaction is we protect people with more rules.
I go back to the 10 Commandments. You know, the Bible said you needed 10. They didn't say you needed 100,000.
Coming up, do you hate the TSA?
Such disgusting abuses of power.
But good news, there's something better.
People here are friendly and willing to help.
That's next. After September 11th, politicians said government must take over airline security.
And get federal law enforcement to do this job.
Tom Daschle said you can't professionalize if you don't federalize. And the Senate voted 100-0 to take over airport security screenings.
Sir, do you have your ID?
So is it now professional?
Opt out!
These people don't think so. Flyers complain that they are
Subjected to such disgusting abuses of power.
TSA employees ordered the elderly woman remove her soiled adult diaper because it was preventing a thorough pat-down.
This former Miss America said she felt molested.
She actually touched my vagina.
But didn't the TSA keep us safe?
There haven't been successful attacks since September 11th. You might say that shows it's working.
Actually, every report shows that TSA missed things. What actually saved us was the passengers and crew.
Congressman Micah helped create the TSA. Now he chairs the Transportation Committee.
Richard Reed, it wasn't a TSA that saved the day. If you look at the diaper bomber, it was the passengers and crew that saved the day. The Times Square bomber, he called on his cell phone, ordered his ticket on the way to JFK, went through TSA, got on the plane.
On top of that, the TSA is such a lousy place to work that more than 50% of the workforce has quit.
And the agency keeps losing employees and hiring new ones.
They're advertising on the top of pizza boxes.
A career where X-ray vision and benefits are standard. Turnover's high not because the TSA is underfunded. It spends 10 times what the previous private screening companies spent. Micah says he was shocked at how much money they can waste.
John, you don't want to know. I just sent 2 guys down. They've got a warehouse in Texas. They bought hundreds of puffers that didn't work.
Remember these? They cost $150,000 each and were supposed to detect explosives. But they didn't work.
They sat in warehouses and they paid, I think, $600 a piece for DOD to destroy them.
So the TSA wastes money, misses terrorists, infuriates passengers, and creates long lines. Isn't there a better way? Oh, here's one. The lines are shorter at San Francisco Airport. They move quickly. And passengers even say the screeners are nice.
People here are friendly and willing to help.
I think they're a little more understanding.
Everybody here is friendly, a lot more friendly than Dallas.
Dallas and all the other big airports employ government screeners. San Francisco is the one major airport that was allowed to hire screeners who work for a private company. Not only are these screeners nicer, they're better at finding stuff. The TSA tested them and found they were twice as good at finding contraband. Why would private screeners be nicer and better? Here's a reason. They practice. Here they're racing to match these security cards together under blacklight. The fastest screener will win $2,000. There's even dramatic music. The TSA trains its screeners too, but not like this. In this competition, screeners race to search bags and identify forbidden items. Here's a pipe bomb. Then they rush to repack the bag.
All right.
In this test, they look at slides of people and try to remember details.
How many buttons are on her sleeve? Marcia?
4.
Yes.
The private company makes these screeners specialists.
Behavior detection officer. They have to be able to look at something, look at a lot of people, and be able to retain what they saw. So this is the things you find out, who's very good at that stuff.
We're really competitive.
Screeners love the contests.
Mm-hmm. So usually it's, did you go? Yes. What's your score? I'm not telling you. Because if you tell a person your score, they're going to try to beat you. Mm-hmm. And you just want to be the winner. It's kind of like bragging rights.
And I suppose they get better with these contests?
Oh, yes, they have to.
If you don't have the passion for it, right, then I guess you need to find another job.
Who knew privatization would create better attitudes?
Privatized seems so selfish. I bet you're making money. That's money coming out of my pocket.
I don't mind making a little profit. It's kind of the capitalistic way. It's the American way.
Profit makes you try harder.
Makes you work very hard. We have to do well.
That also means getting passengers through security quickly. Wait times here are shorter because they move screeners around.
We have moved in staff from Pier C over to Pier E checkpoint with 2 lanes up.
If we show red there, we know we're short-staffed somewhere. See, we start to back up here a little bit. We find out how many people we can send to help them.
Okay, I think we're good. We'll make those changes.
The director of this airport wishes her screening company tried as hard to keep lines moving.
We get a high number of visitors in the summer.
Of course she does. Her airport's right next to Montana's Glacier National Park. People go to the park in summertime. Traffic triples. But the TSA doesn't respond to that.
Screening levels remain constant year-round. Same number in the summer as in the winter.
So because of that and the delays it creates, and passenger complaints about rude screeners, Cindy wanted to switch to a private screening company. The law that created the TSA allows that, but airports have to ask for permission. Cindy and dozens of other airport managers asked, but the TSA simply didn't respond for a year and a half. Then they said no.
What reason did they give you?
They didn't give us a reason.
We asked TSA officials to come on this show to explain their position, but they declined. Their spokesman also lied to us. When we asked for permission to film the competitions at San Francisco Airport, they told us the private company is camera shy and wants to stay out of the limelight. But it wasn't true.
I don't know why they did that. I really don't.
The only reason the TSA is given for rejecting other San Francisco-like experiments is there is no clear advantage to the federal government.
I bet McDonald's would like to tell Burger King, you can't open here. There's no clear advantage to you coming here.
They would love that, I'm sure.
TSA creator, Congressman Micah, says the bureaucrats are just protecting their turf.
It's typical government.
Gives them more power.
Yeah, keep the power in Washington.
So, what were you thinking? You did this.
There's no question it's grown into a monster, and they become a huge personnel operation instead of a security operation.
Coming up, people think the program Head Start gives poor kids a head start. But no, they can't.
There is one government program that most everyone says is a big success, and that's Head Start.
Head Start has been such an extraordinary success over all these years.
It's a program that's working.
Everyone loves Head Start. It gives underprivileged kids some early education to give them a head start before regular school. Its lobby says it's a place
where dreams are born and minds are nourished, talent can grow, curiosity flourish.
Head Start is a great program.
And it gets results?
I think there's tons of results.
Everyone thinks that, but it's not true.
We've spent $180 billion on a program that has zero advantage for disadvantaged kids.
What do you mean zero advantage?
There was a study that just came out in 2010, funded by the federal government. It looked at 114 indicators. It did not find one positive outcome.
Some poor kids got Head Start, other kids didn't.
They couldn't tell the difference between the kid that had the large Head Start investment and the similar poor disadvantaged kid.
The government's own study found positive impacts while the kids were in Head Start. But
1 year later, all gone.
By kindergarten and first grade, they could find no difference in the kids that went and the kids that didn't.
Now our president's taken a strong stance against ineffective programs.
We've got to eliminate programs that don't work.
Eliminating programs that don't work.
Eliminating programs that no longer work.
We've spent more than $100 billion, and the government does this big study and finds, oops, no difference.
Right.
So they say, okay, we're going to stop.
No, instead, it gets $1 billion increase. And then the next year in 2012, this year, it gets a $400 million increase. And in Obama's 2013 budget, it gets another $100 million increase.
I had a chance to visit one of the classrooms here, and I have to say it got me a little choked up.
We should be choked up because government keeps spending more money on programs that even they admit don't work. I wanted to confront the administration or people from Head Start about this, but they wouldn't talk to me. So I'm glad Congressman Ellison did.
You cannot tell me that the food that they get, the instruction that they get, the love that they get from the people who work there are not doing these kids tremendous benefit.
I would like to believe that they get a lasting benefit, but the government's own data finds none of that.
Well, you know what? That's not the problem of Head Start. That's the problem of not adequate investment in our public education system.
What would be enough? 50,000 a kid, 100,000 a kid? The line is always we have to spend more money, and if we're just better funded, we'll eventually get better outcomes for kids.
That's what the big spenders always say about most everything government does.
Yes, we can.
More money and government power will fix everything. But no, they can't.
Okay, although government can't. When we return, we'll see how free people can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
No, they can't. That's a nasty title for my new book, but politicians can't do what private individuals can. Over the years, politicians have promised us energy independence, world peace, an end to poverty. If we just give them more money, they will solve those problems.
But no, they can't.
Their plans go bad. Head Start doesn't work. College tuition pays for spas. The TSA is awful.
She actually touched my vagina.
There are hundreds of other examples of how government can't in here. You can read more about that on my website, johnstossel.com. But wait, you say, if government can't, what about cutting-edge science like NASA? America did send a man to the moon.
You got the flag up now.
We all like this.
Beautiful, just beautiful.
But think about it. It cost billions, and what did we get? Promos for a breakfast drink.
Tang instant breakfast drink went with them.
NASA technology did bring us the CAT scan, but our billions haven't gotten us much. We get lots of delayed projects. Government science is clumsy. By contrast, for a fraction of the cost, a private group called the X Prize does better.
Offer a prize and they will come.
They promised $10 million to anyone who could launch 3 men into outer space. 25 teams competed for the prize.
I have never been myself as creative as I have eyeballing this damn prize.
Burt Rutan's Spaceship One won the prize. Then billionaire investors said, I want a piece of that.
Richard Branson came in and bought the rights and commercialized it to create Virgin Galactic,
a company that plans to run a tour bus in space. Already Tom Hanks, Ashton Kutcher, Katy Perry, and Brangelina bought tickets. The fare is $200,000 now, but Branson says someday it'll be as cheap as normal airfare.
This is Richard Branson, and he's here to service you.
I'm told private companies won't want to do this. There's no money to be made in going to the moon, so this has to be done by government.
You know, all new innovation really comes out of the private sector. It comes out of entrepreneurs.
How are they going to make money?
By charging for the ride.
Politicians say
government support is critical in helping businesses get new energy ideas off the ground.
We're programmed to believe that if it's for real high-tech, futuristic innovation, it's got to come from the government.
And it's just the opposite.
The feds have already thrown billions at failures like Solyndra, and that was tiny compared to the Clinch River breeder reactor, Solar One, the Triad ethanol plant, and the hundreds of billions wasted on synfuels.
Some things work out, some things don't.
Progressives say government's boondoggles are worth the risk.
I like the idea of government taking my dollars, my tax dollars, and investing in the technologies of tomorrow.
Progressives also like government forcing private companies to do it.
Those fuel efficiency standards have forced Detroit to innovate in ways that it might not have without them.
If government didn't dictate 35 miles per gallon, we wouldn't get there? We need government to force it?
I think we do need government to force it.
But no, we don't. While government spent billions, X Prize offered a $10 million prize for a car that gets 100 miles per gallon.
The announcement sparks an immediate and powerful worldwide response.
We're in. We got to do this. We're going to go for this in a big way.
To meet the challenge, some teams use gasoline, electricity, even compressed air.
130 teams around the world entered. It's proving what's possible.
The design phase was first. Cars had to pass a looks test. Then came the safety and performance tests. Most teams were eliminated.
Oh well, we had the range, we had the mileage, but in the 0 to 60, our transmission just didn't hold up.
This team won the prize with a car that got 102 miles per gallon.
I can't buy these cars.
Not yet, but these cars are slowly getting into production. Components of them are going into the large auto manufacturers.
One more example.
Thousands of gallons of crude oil are oozing.
Government took charge after the BP oil spill.
Make no mistake, we'll continue to do whatever is necessary.
Have we brought in the best and the brightest of all the minds that could deal with this?
No, government hadn't.
And we started looking at this and said, you know, reinventing how to clean up oil on the surface hasn't changed since the Exxon Valdez 21 years earlier.
So how would he improve it?
I don't know, but the competition will bring the best ideas to the top.
And it's odd to hear you say, I don't know. The government assumption is that someone in government does know and can pick, but you're giving away all this money and you say, I don't know.
We don't pick the winner in advance like the government does in research. The research funding agency says, you're a good researcher, here's money. We flip it and say, I don't know which of you 100 teams are the best one, but the one who achieves this will pay you. We only pay for success.
And I'm waiting for that great big check.
So Wendy Schmidt offered a $1.5 million prize for a faster way to clean up oil.
350 teams around the world registered to enter that competition.
We gave it our best shot, and we'll see what happens.
Some teams had no prior experience with oil spills.
We get asked all the time, they go, how long have you been in the oil industry? And well, counting today.
The top 10 teams went head-to-head at the world's largest oil spill cleanup facility in New Jersey. And 7 of the 10 teams doubled the pre-existing standards that had been used to clean up oil for the last 20 years.
If we get this pump working, we will win.
One of the teams that doubled it was a team that met in a Las Vegas tattoo parlor. I kid you not. You can't make up this stuff. And they built a scale model in one of the guys' pools. And it still doubled the ability to clean up oil spill from the last 21 years.
So for 20 years, they tried and they can clean up oil spills, but only at a certain speed. With the prize, you double it.
Actually, the winning team for the prize quadrupled it.
Why can't the Environmental Protection Agency lead stuff like this?
Well, they could, but they didn't, did they?
Just because government can't, that doesn't mean we can't. We can. Individuals succeed while government fails. That's our show. I'm John Stossel. Thanks for watching.